Today we're going to go over how to turn this into this. Kind of a creative headshot, if you will. And we're going to start from the very beginning, going over all the different pieces of equipment that I use, and I'll link them all in the description. But this way you'll get a very broad look at how we go from starting and setup through editing in Lightroom and Photoshop to get a final product. So let's get started. Will Simpson here, welcome back to the channel. So first we're gonna start with the gear, what I'm using, the equipment, all the flashes, the bounces, everything. So the first thing we're using, I have my Canon R5, which will be the camera. On top of it is the X Pro C from Godox, it's the transmitter. Now for the flash, well, I guess tripod, Peak Design, but you can use any tripod. So for the flash, we're using a Godox 8200 Pro, and we're attaching that into a parabolic modifier about 68 centimeters in diameter. Now this is positioned like this because I'm trying to get a top-down light where it lights in front of my face, and it actually reduces the chance of getting glare because of the angle if you wear glasses or anything like that. So if you are shooting people with glasses, this is a really good way to shoot the subject because then you don't get glare on the glasses. Now come on over here and I'm going to show you this here. This is a Westcott highlighter, and this you don't necessarily need. One thing that you can use is a simple 5-in-1 tool, which when you have your subject sitting or standing, they just hold this right here where the modifier is pointed directly at the bounce, and this helps highlight up underneath their chin. So when you do take a picture without this, it's very dark. With this, it lightens this up and helps you increase the jawline and make it look a little bit nicer. Now, in addition to this, I'm just gonna leave that right there, and it's gonna slide right off. In addition to this, we're using a Godox V1 flash for our hair light. Now I have on this with the accessory pack, I have the grid, which makes the light more direct, so it's not as spread out. And then on top of that, I'm using the barn doors that you get. That way I can keep the light from going onto the backdrop and from down, just basically directing it more. So this gives me more precise light for my hair light. Now, since I'm taking this photo technically by myself, I have a trigger, using the Canon trigger, paired up with the R5 so I can take this photo. So let's go ahead and take a few shots and then we'll get into editing. We are ready, we're set up, we're gonna take a few photos. Couple of pointers. This is a very simple headshot. There are so many ways that you can do headshots. I mean, so many poses, all things like that. So a couple of key points just for this one specifically. I'm simply going to be square to the camera, slight tilt, but I want my shoulders square at the camera. My face gonna be down. The camera position, the lens should be just below your nose line. So when you're taking headshots, the lens should be right below the nose of your subject. So it gives it almost a looking up direction. You don't want the camera looking down on your subject for headshots. Now, as far as the pose goes, you want to, if you want to smile, fine. If you want to, whatever face you want to do. But one thing that everyone does is when you smile, you pull back and you create a double chin, you create layers, things like that. The way to handle that is to simply take your forehead and your chin and push it towards the camera. Now, a lot of people have a tendency to go up or down. You want to go straight forward. So it looks like this. Now, you can't really tell from this vantage point because it's a two-dimensional image, but it allows the jawline to increase and it makes it look much nicer. So that's just one tip. Now you can overdo it, you can really push out and you can really tell. So it's just a slight to get the jawline, chin down just a shade, and there's your look. All right, so let's take a few photos. I'm gonna turn these overheads off because it's garbage lighting. So let's take some photos, shall we? And now we are in the studio. Obviously the light looks way better because I can set it up more naturally. Well, more studio-ically. But I forgot to mention, the settings that I had for these pictures were ISO 400 at 70 millimeters, f/4.5 and 1/200th of a second. The power of the flashes that I was using, the 8200 was at 132 and the V1 for the hair light was also at 132. Now, if you're not sure how to set up your lights, one thing that I do is I turn them on individually. For example, I turned off the 8200, our key light, and then just took a picture with the hair light to see what it affected. When I did this with my assistant, I took a picture of her. Here it is with just the hair light. That way I can see, okay, it's just enough light to give a little bit of light, but not too much to overpower it. Then I turned on the key light and got this lit, so I get her perfectly lit. Now, I want you to notice no glare in the glasses, and that's because of that upward angle, so the reflection of the light goes to the floor rather than to the camera. If you use like a 90-degree or a 45-degree from the side, your potential to get the reflection is higher. Okay, so at this point, let's go ahead and get into the editing. Now, the first thing you'll notice is my face needs work. I've made a few adjustments here. First, I've increased the exposure to about +5. I've increased the contrast to about +7. I've lowered the highlights, raised the shadows, lowered the whites because this little glare here at the top of my head, I wanted to take that down a little. I've also increased the blacks to make it a little bit more moody and increased the texture and the clarity. Now, most of this editing, most of the style and stuff we're gonna do in Photoshop, but essentially here's the before and here is the after. It just gives us more to work with. Now, the next thing I'm gonna do is come down to Sharpening, to the Detail tab, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna adjust the sharpening, because again, we're gonna do a lot of the sharpening in Photoshop. So we're gonna lower this down to about 20, and then I only want it to sharpen the certain edges of me. So I'm gonna click the masking tool, but I'm gonna push and hold Alt or Option on a Mac, Alt on a PC, click the slider and slide it up until it's just affecting kind of the lines. So let's go to like 70. Good, so now I look like a really artistic painting. Actually, if I screenshot that, that's a pretty cool photo. That's kind of neat. Okay, but that's where we're gonna go right there. Then we're going to edit in Photoshop. So we're gonna right click, edit in Adobe Photoshop. Hey, really fast before we get into this, YouTube really, really loves it, and I super appreciate it if you can like it and especially leave a comment on the video. I don't care what you say. Great video, hi, I like chicken, whatever you want. But commenting, liking, and even subscribing makes a huge difference for my channel, and I greatly appreciate it. I'm obviously going to continue doing these videos for you, but if you could do that, that very small thing makes a huge impact on the videos. So thank you very much. Let's get back into it. Once we're in Photoshop, we're gonna start really simple. So first, click the background layer, press Command or Control J to make a duplicate copy. The first thing I'm gonna do is do a little bit of skin touch up on my face. So J on the keyboard for the spot healing brush tool here. And we're just gonna clean up a few of my little blemishes that I have on my face, just because I can, and this is Photoshop and awesome. Good, little bit of stray hairs here. Really simple, we're not gonna go too crazy here. Okay, good, that's plenty. Good. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of lightening, dodging and burning, because we want to correct some of the shadows and stuff. Like if you see under my eyes, I have some dark circles, which we don't wanna get rid of too much, but we do want to lighten them a little bit. So I have an action here called Dodge and Burn. We're just gonna play that. And this creates two layers, two curves adjustments. One is a dodge, which is bright, and one is a burn, which is really dark, both inverted masks, so I can easily use them. But if you wanna create one, you simply go to the adjustment layers, use curves. For a dodge, you'd raise it high. For burn, you'd raise it low. And just to show you how to do it, so you do that, and then rename it burn, click the mask here and press Command I, and it inverts it. So that's all it's doing. So we're gonna delete this because we already have one. So first we're gonna dodge. So press the brush tool, make it smaller. We're gonna go to the opacity, and we're going to lower this to about 7%. Zoom in to the eye, and we're just gonna simply brush here, make sure white is the foreground color, otherwise you just do a lot of work for nothing. And we're just gonna lighten this up a little. Now this takes a little bit of practice to get good at it. Like you see people on YouTube and they do this in like 30 seconds and you're like, what? How do they do that? Well, they've been doing it forever. So don't feel discouraged if you do this and it doesn't go very well the first time. It does take a little bit of trial and error. but we're just gonna do this real quick and just lighten these bad boys up so I don't look like the Crypt Keeper from your horror movies. Okay, good, let's lighten this up a little. And we're gonna come back over this and create and do some burning to put some contour, but we want a more easy slate to work with, allow us some more customization. All right, and I'm not gonna go too much on this. Good, okay, so here is the before and after. Not much, but it just cleans it up a little. All right, so there's our group for dodge and burn. The next thing we're going to do is we're gonna brighten the eyes. So let's create a new layer by clicking the square with the plus sign. Then we're gonna use the marquee tool up here, which is M on the keyboard. If you don't see the circle, right click on it and you select the elliptical marquee tool. Let's go up here and decrease the feather to 0, or even like 1 is fine. So how about 1? Good. Let's go ahead and zoom in. Select the marquee tool, M on the keyboard, and then press and hold shift to get a complete circle. Because if you don't hold shift, you'll get like an oval. But while you have the oval, if you press shift, it'll give you an exact circle. Get it to about the size of the eye. Then while holding your mouse click, press space bar and hold it. You can move the circle. Center it over the eye, then let go. Now press shift, it'll give you the plus sign. We're gonna create another circle. I'm gonna create it right on the eye. If you release shift and then press it again, you get a circle. So you release the shift button and then you press it again and you get a circle, press space bar and you move it, and there we go. Now we have our eyes selected. The next thing we're gonna do is create a mask. So we're gonna click the mask button, and this gives us our mask. If we press and hold Option and then click the mask, you see there's our circles. So now we want an adjustment layer, and we only want an adjustment layer to brighten them up for a blend mode. So we're gonna go up here, we're gonna click, let's just do exposure. It doesn't really matter, so exit out. Once we have the new layer, we're going to click this mask, push and hold Option, and drag the mask up. It's gonna say replace layer mask, yes. Then we're going to change the blend mode of the exposure layer to linear dodge. Notice how the eyes pop. I mean, just look at this, before, after. I mean, amazing, right? So then we're just gonna make a few adjustments. Click the brush B on the keyboard, make sure black is the foreground color, opacity is 100, and we're just gonna remove the mask from the eyelids here, just like this, and we're just gonna soften it around the edges by just taking it off so it's not as harsh. There we go, just like that, so it looks a little bit more natural, and then it looks quite harsh. So what we're going to do is lower the opacity to about 70%. So here we go. Here is the before, here is the after. Just brighten in the eyes. Actually, that seems a little aggressive, so we're gonna lower that to about 50%. Okay, good. Now we're moving on to the next thing. Next, we're gonna do a little sharpening. Now, the cool thing about the sharpening is you want to sharpen the eyes, the mouth, the nose, things like that. So let's create a new layer. Let's go to the sharpen tool here, which is on the left side. Click this. Then you want to make sure sample all layers and protect detail is clicked. This way you're using all the different layers and you're not destroying any of the detail of the image. It's just kind of sharpening them. Then your strength is about 30%, 40%, something like that. So the sharpening tool works like this. The longer you use it, let's say you click in one spot and drag it, and then drag it over, it's gonna apply more and more and more and more and more. So if you just continually make circles, you're doing 6 times the sharpening. So it's just a layer of it. So let's zoom into the eyes. With the sharpening tool selected, we're just going to sharpen the eyes. Let's just do like 3 circles around the eyes. Good. And 1, 2, 3. Good. Now there's not much, but let's see. Here's the before. Here's the before, here's the after. It's just a little bit sharper. You don't want to go too much. Let's just group all that. So group all of these, select them all, press Command or Control G, and then rename them eyes. So there's our eyes group. Next, we want to do some more dodging and burning. So let's go ahead and create the dodge and burn layer again, and we're going to move it to the top, and we're going to just call this dodge and burn 2. And I'm gonna speed this up because we're just contouring. We're darkening the darks and lightening the lights. So it's very, very simple. I'm just gonna speed it up really quick. That way you don't have to watch me go through it, and then I'll show you the before and after. Okay, and we are done. So here is the after, here is the before. So you see how much contour it creates. So all I did was, if you want to see the actual mask of what I did, here is the mask of the burn, and here is the mask of the dodge. So I just highlighted the highlights and I darkened the darks. But you have to remember, you're working with a flat image. So to create that contour, you want to do dodging and burning, darkening the darks, lightening the lights. And we're getting there, we're almost there. So the next thing we're gonna do is sharpen the image as a whole. So we're gonna press Shift Command Control E, or I believe it's Shift Alt Control E on a PC. This essentially takes all of the current layers, combines them into one layer at the very top. Now, if you've seen my sharpening video, I have a sharpening action that makes it super simple. I'll link it in the description so you can download it if you want. So we're gonna rename this layer Sharpen, and then we're going to go here to my sharpening action and press play. Now we have our sharpen. So if we zoom in and we uninvert the mask, it sharpens the entire image. But we don't wanna do that. What we wanna do is just simply sharpen parts of the image. So press brush, we're going to zoom out, and we're gonna set this at about 30%, and we're gonna just sharpen the face. We're just gonna make kind of a circle around the face, just like that. So that is what's sharpened. Then we are going to duplicate this. Command and Control J, get rid of this, so press X, 100%, remove that sharpening. Then press X, we're gonna go down to about 10%. Opacity, and we're just going to sharpen my eyes, my nose, and my lips. Give that a little extra sharpening. Here is the before. Zoom in a little bit more. Here is the after, before. It's not much, but it is enough to give some sharpening. Okay, good. Okay, so now we're gonna add a little bit of glow to the image. So we're gonna press Shift Command Option E, create a new layer. Then we're going to go up to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. We're gonna do about 20, press OK. Then we're gonna change the blend mode to Soft Light. And then we're going to change the opacity to 20%. And that just gives a soft glow to the image. And this works really good with landscape photos too. Quick tip for you, but before, after. See, it just gives a nice kind of glow, a little bit of a pop to it. Now let's look at the before and after from where we started. So here is the before, here is the after. I mean, this is looking amazing. So now let's go back to Lightroom and finish up. So Command or Control S, and this is gonna save this image and put us back into Lightroom. So now we're back into Lightroom. First thing we're gonna do is gonna crop it. So press R on the keyboard. We're gonna go to a 4:5 and we're going to press X to rotate the I don't even know what to call it. The layout, yeah, the layout. Let's go ahead and center me, press Enter. Now, next thing we're gonna do is we're going to create kind of a vignette. So click the mask, go to Radial Gradient, make a big radial gradient here, put it right there, and then we're going to invert it. Good, and move it up so it's around the face, and then we're just gonna kind of darken it a little. Creates a little bit of a vignette around it, but because I have a really dark shirt on, we're actually gonna subtract it from the subject because we don't really wanna take that away. And then I wanna put a little bit of a backlight. So I'm gonna do another radial gradient. I'm gonna put gradient right here, subtract the subject, somewhere, there it is. And then we're just gonna add a little bit of a light there. Just a shade like that, perfect, okay, good. So now we're gonna add a little bit of glow to the face, and that wraps it up. So go to Brush, make sure everything's 100, and we're just going to paint right over the face here, and just add a smidge of brightness. Just like, just a little bit, 0.10. Perfect, and actually gonna do a little bit more because it looks like it's a little darker over here. Just gonna brighten that up so it's a little bit even. Good, and then finally just lower the highlights just a shade. Perfect. And there we have it. There is your unique and creative portrait or headshot, however you want to do it. But these are so easy to do. I mean, I hope you followed along pretty simply. And here is the other one. Here is Brianna's before and after, and hers turned out just as good. I did the exact same procedure on hers that I did on mine, and it looks amazing. So I hope this was helpful. If it was, please like. Also, if you could, would love it if you left a comment. It is so helpful for my videos. It tells YouTube, hey, this was a good video. Please show it to more people. And of course, subscribe because, hey, you don't want to miss a video, right? So I hope this was helpful. I hope you enjoyed this. Please watch this video and follow it through and do it on your own portraits. And if you post them on Instagram, tag me in them. I would love to see what you create using this technique. Anyways, this is all. I'll see you guys next week.